Now, when it comes to you guys, like you said, so you met at the OCA, probably at Dragon Lady Comics, where Cheatin is working. Um, when did the idea for TikTok Tom start? Was it just you guys sort of yakking, and all of a sudden it was, we could probably do something? What's sort of the origin of TikTok Tom?
Well, what happened was we started off a comic book called Cool Box. We did it a large format, and we did about what 8, 9 issues of it. And it was a collective of artists from OCA who got together and said, you know what, let's do a comic book. And three of us were involved in it. And in one of the issues, I decided to do a story about this character called Tic Toc Tom. And we put it in the book, and that was it. And Ken will tell you the rest of the story on that. Ken?
Yeah. So Shatan came up to me one day and he said, I have this character. I don't know if I want to do anything with it. And you like to write. Would you like to take it over? And I thought, well, yeah, I could do that. It was interesting proposition. I will admit I was very tempted to say, yeah, I'll take it, Shatan. But we're all good friends. So I said to Shatan, why don't we do it together? Like, why don't we? I think potentially it's big. We could have a lot of fun with this. And if we just put our heads together, we can come up with some great stories. And that's what we did. So I convinced them, Shatan, keep it, keep it. It's been a running joke for years among us all that it was given to me. I will admit, it was actually given to me. But no, I mean, really, at the end of the day, we're all friends, and I think that's what makes it great that we can, as a camaraderie with a group of people, to make something work. And we did, and we pushed it for all the rest of like mid '90s, I would say.
Right
Yeah,
on.
certainly as long as like I think the original TikTok Tom series, we always planned it to be 12 issues. So the issue started with 1 o'clock and it ended with 12 o'clock. And
That's right.
we tried to do books every month or two, I think, Japan. And
Yeah, but
I but
so what happened with the
so
books
yeah, we
was,
tried to.
yeah, we did a 12 issue series, and each issue basically was open to anyone who wanted to write a story, draw a story. It didn't matter. As long as they were interested in doing a story, we were open for it. And
Okay.
But we
that's
also
how we
asked a
built up
lot
the
of people too.
readership.
But we asked a lot of people too.
Yes.
Like we would go out of our way to say, "Hey, you want to do something?" If we knew that you're interested in comics or photography or writing, you did, and I know I did, and you did too. We
Yeah.
went out of our way to ask people to be a part of it, which is what makes it kind of unique.
Well, and the other thing to remember is that it wasn't only local people. We had like people from different cities, different countries who somehow found their hands on a copy of the zine, and
Yeah,
then they wanted to do stuff, right? So, and they would say, "Can I do something?" And they were like, "Yeah, why not?" And there's no like editorial like pressure on anybody to do a certain story or a certain style. It's very open. I think that's why it's lasted probably so long. It's because we're not heavy-handed about it. We don't have like a Bible or a canon. We have kind of base attributes for the characters, and as long as you don't do anything super crazy, you know, uh, go nuts.
I just remember one story where I got a letter from I think it was a 12-year-old kid, and he said he sent me a story. He drew it out, wrote it, and at first I'm thinking 12-year-old, how did he get our comic? Must have been his dad, someone. And he actually sent it, and I printed it, and I sent him a copy. And that was surprising. I mean, that made me feel really good. I mean, someone who just sent me, and one of our regular artists, Pierre Macchioni, he did the same thing. He just sent me a story, drew out I think it was a 12-page story, and said, I did this because I loved your mini comic.
Wow.
Yeah, funny thing about Peter, um, I actually went to high school with him, and then I left high school, went to art school, and then he contacted Japan without me knowing. Like I had no idea, and ended up drawing for the book as well. Very
Wow.
strange.
And for the mini comic, I've gotten letters from um, southern U.S. and I've gotten one from Australia, and
Now,
I'm going. I was surprised on that.
yeah. Now the timeline on this, just so I'm clear, because so far we've talked about like the '90s, and in my brain I always go like '92 to '98 or whatever. Um, all of this was happening in that time frame, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So beyond the three of you went to OCAD or OCA. You met each other there. You worked on the comic there. Were there others directly from the OCA as well?
There was few. Rest of them were away from anywhere else we've met them.
Okay, and so that's how you've kind of, like you said, southern U.S. You've had basically people, over the pond and all that. How are you getting the comic out? Like, I'm assuming you're like many people having them printed, correct?
So what I would personally do is tell everyone let's say issue 4 deadline will be in April. I would like to have all the material done by submitted by March, and I would this is all old school before internet was just coming up,
Yeah.
and Photoshop computers were, I hate to say it, I mean, just to do one cover, it would take up what 5 6 floppy disk. So this is all old school photocopies, pasted, cut and paste, then you know putting it all together by hand, taking it to the photocopier,
Wow.
hand feeding everything, stapling it, folding it. So it's all old school.
Well, not only that, delivering it to the shops and then
Yeah.
like collecting money afterwards is all hands on. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like selling a book online.
Yeah,
Or
you
just
had
digitally
to.
printing it. Yeah, it was legwork involved
Well,
for sure.
Well, I remember at Chitan, I used to walk around Yonge Street, like dropping it off at record stores, bookstores. We would pretty much go anywhere that we figured somebody would want to, have a consignment on the book. So I know we like went into like all the record shops on Yonge Street. We did all that. So we even with the sticker Chitan, remember that we used to
Oh
all
yes.
those stickers that you made up. We'd plaster stickers all over the city, all along Yonge Street. We would just get it out there to people.
Now you have to remember it's early '90s, mid '90s, early in the '90s. There used to be used bookstores, used record
Hmm.
shops,
Yeah, exactly.
things that are not around anymore. So it was different times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, like I don't mean to date anybody in the call here because I'm going to date myself terribly. When you guys were doing this, I was, depending on when you actually started, I was either born or less than 10. Um, so my earliest memories of the internet are, dial up. And I'm just like, wait, so you guys somehow coordinated, built a comic, had it drawn, written, put together, printed, stapled, and physically hand shipped or brought to stores. I
Yeah.
think the craziest thing then for me is how the heck did it get out of the country? Because I can't imagine that you guys were, I'm going to hop on a plane between classes and go drop this off. Like, that is an insane amount
Well,
of reach to have.
I will say that although the internet is just being birthed at this point when we started the book, I had an account on I had an internet account, and I had a terrible webpage, just terrible. Um, and there were still some people who would find you somehow, and they would find a reference, and that's kind of like circles back to what I was saying about when I went to the OCA, just meeting people who are like minded. It was the same thing on the internet, right? Like I met a few people who were like minded, and they were desperate to work in the medium and to be creative. And here, a bunch of art students saying, if you want to do something, you can do it. We're not gonna hold you back, right? And we'll print it, So I mean, if you think about it, if you don't really have the exposure or the opportunity to do that, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Hey, you can do that," you're gonna jump on it, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's why we had a lot of people kind of like contacting us and wanting to be a part of it.
And the
Awesome.
main and the main thing with us is we never had any editorialship, like, do it this way, do it that way. We
Hmm.
kept it open, and I think that's what people liked about our books.
Yeah.
And that's made it good because it was a collective of people, and we all just wanted to do our own thing, and everyone contributed in various ways, and that's what made it kind of a unique experience for all of us at that time.
Okay. Yeah. Like in like when I was doing my research for this, I cruised your website and you have a list of creators, and I didn't actually count how many there were, but I figure there's at least about 20 or more. Um, other than the initial chunk of this in the early 90s, because we're 3 decades later now, um, and it's still going. You've got So What sitting beside you. Um, has there been people that have sort of come and gone? Is it just sort of been a consistent building up of people over the years that have worked on it? Um, how's that huge team effort sort of worked?
Well, mostly I would say the team effort. Mostly it's worked very well. Paul, Mario, Ken, Tom Yo, Peter Macchioni. We've been working at it for last. I mean, three of us have been working on it for 30 years. The other guys, we've been working at it for almost 15, 20 years also. Now, with So What, which is right here, our latest book, we had a couple of people who are following us on Twitter, and they always commented on our page and all this. So as usual, like Ken and I used to do, we just said, "Hey, do you guys want to do a story?" And this one of them is Derek Barton, who lives in Oshawa, and Mary Sigona, who lives in New York. Both of them said, "Yeah, we'd love to do a story for you guys." So it's one of those things where we just, what? Every time someone follows us, we always, we always talk to them, and we're open minded, really.
Hmm. That's really incredible, and it's actually funny you bring Derek up, because I do have him on social media, and he's frequently posting, um, but yeah, he of all the people that I followed and doing what I do, I try and follow every artist I can, every writer I can. I try and track everyone down. Um, Derek in particular is a very active person on social media, and I find he
Yes.
tags me in a lot, and I'm like, that's really cool. Like I like that. Obviously,
Uh,
I won't expect that from everyone, but it's it's interesting to see. Yeah.
See, this is the
well,
new age.
I think,
Oh,
sorry, Japan. I was just gonna say that, like, even though the book started so long ago, um, it's the roots, its roots carry over today. It was always about, um, getting people to contribute and share their stories, and uh, and now it's still the same thing. Like, we still want people to send in. You know what I mean? We're not making like money off of it. All of our efforts are meant to just put more books out. Like, that's it. So, and if we can engage people who want to contribute, that just like fuels us to like keep going with it. So if anything, that's probably why it lasted so long. It's just being fueled by people wanting to do so.
now with your question, we have the three of us have been working on it for a while. Myself and Tom Yo have been working on stories for a long time. Now, sometimes we need a break, so we'll get away from it for a while, let the other guys do some work, and come back to it. We've had that happen so many times where people come back after a couple of years and say, "Hey, can I?" Like one example is a friend of mine, close friend of mine, Chris Stewart, who just recently told me he did a couple of pages in So What. He said, "Hey, I have some ideas for stories for Tom." I go, "Okay, do it." But you take a break. All of us have lives now. We have kids, family, and everything. So, we get away from it and come back to it. And we always say, you know what, the door's always open.
Yeah, I guess
That's
we kind of have a bullpen now, right? Like we got like so many people who have worked on the book that if someone's got to take some time off. It's no big deal because you got someone who's ready to fill in.
Yeah, really, like